Absolute scenes at KRAMNIK HQ. He's allowed back on chess.com to compete in the titled cash prize events, titled Tuesday being the flagship one. So he played 9th of July. His 3-month ban is served. He was using GM Dennis Kismatulin's account for some very important research. The findings on the way, coming soon as I understand it. And of course he's been busy. How did he use the 3 months? Well, productively. He first worked on his bishop balancing, an essential skill for any former world champion. Then he began to stare into space, practicing his Hikaru Nakamura looks, and he rounded it off going full detective because he's on a mission to catch 'em all, rid the world of these ghastly chess cheaters. And you just couldn't have scripted his return to chess.com better, because in round 8, early tournament, 9th of July, who does he get paired against? The procedure guy.
Okay, let's do the procedure. Block. This is first what I do.
He returns to title Tuesday, Vladimir KRAMNIK, and gets paired with Mahdi. Real name, Mahdi Orimi, international master. Not in my league, says KRAMNIK. Will KRAMNIK play him? Well, after d4, yes he does. He goes knight f6. It's game on. No spoilers, right? Let's just watch and enjoy, but stick around. The ending's awesome. So c4 is played by Mahdi, the most explosive move. This is online, it's blitz chess, as a reminder, super grandmasters and other titled players. And now would you believe this? Move 3, and Mahdi goes knight to c3. It's the top engine move. And I am just rolling off this stonkfish kind of play on move 3. KRAMNIK goes bishop b4, already a little bit sussy. He does that one with a whoosh. Now we get e3, castle's played, and bishop d3. More perfect chess from Mahdi here. d5 from KRAMNIK, he fights for the centre. We see an exchange. Carlsbad pawn structure on the board. No one knows if it's spelt with a K or a C. It's drove many a chess player to insanity. And now we get a3. Putting a question to the bishop. Vladimir decides to keep his 2Bs, queen c2, and now these are the most common moves for black here. Something solid, standard development, but does KRAMNIK play it? No. He plays knight a6, very provocative. And there's a saying, of course, a knight on the rim is a terrible loser with no prospects. Varies from region to region. You know, let me know what they say in your neck of the woods. But this isn't so good because the knight really wanted to be heading towards the centre. Now you don't actually want to capture. Amazingly, this is good for black because of the bishop pair, presumably. The open b file pressure perhaps, okay, but not played. Before KRAMNIK can enter the game again with that knight, we see Mahdi pushing p. He's threatening b5, clamping on c5. So of course KRAMNIK goes pawn to c ships, and actually the knight is re-entering the game, as we'll see. Knight g to e2 now played, a signal that white wants to go f3. Now we get knight c7, castles, rook e8, pawn f3, continuing with the plan, but KRAMNIK fights back. Going on the other side of the board, taking the tin opener to the pawn formation, rook b1 played, pawn takes here, a recaptures, and now the knight hits e6. It started on a miserable square over here. It's found a nice home. It threatens d4. This is why you can't immediately go e4, because you get a line like this. Bishop tucking back, and look at the huge pressure on d4. No bishop e3 or knight g4 comes. Huge problems. So that's why h3 is played. You stop that idea. You prepare e4. But now bishop c7 fights against d4. Too much pressure on d4, and therefore Mahdi has to go bishop d2. Engine must be switched off, right? He hasn't got the right position here. KRAMNIK's more than equalized, and he now goes on the offensive. The computer questions this move, but we don't always have to trust Stonkfish. Now we see knight d1. Again, the Silicon Overlord doesn't approve. Opens the queen to attack, but there's a great move for KRAMNIK. Queen d6. He defends and attacks at the same time. Always amazing, those kind of moves. But what do we get in response? A camel toe defensive pawn formation. Love to see it on the board. Blunting the queen here, and KRAMNIK carries on, pushing the c pawn. You can immediately go bishop b5, threaten the rook on e8, common idea, but instead we see captures. Pawn takes back, c4 a big threat. Again, you can start with this, different game. We see captures instead. Now the queen recaptures and Vladimir's got the pressure. These pieces in just a bit of a traffic jam. The black minor pieces swarming here. So rook c1 played, taking the queens off, probably prudent. Instead we see this, bishop b6 and now queen b1. Very ambitious, leaving the ladies on the board, but KRAMNIK's got all the attacking potential now, centered around this isolated queen's pawn. Bishop b4 played, the queen hit once more, it retreats, always play king h1, just made that up, and now we see bishop d7, developing, bishop c3, opening the eyes of the queen, improving this one a bit more. Now rook b8 covers that bishop, sets up x-rays, and what should you play here? Well, bishop e5 is best. It gets tactical though, there's stuff to calculate, you're in an x-ray. So Mahdi goes queen to a1 here, setting up the battery, the computer doesn't approve, knight c5 from KRAMNIK, great move, the bishop tucks back, and now what should you do here? Well, the simple move is actually the best one. Occupy this square with a knight. This one's the best. Open the bishop, defend the other knight on f6. Very nice attacking position. But KRAMNIK goes rook a8, not the right square. Pushes the queen back. Now rook b8 back, queen a1. Does he want a repetition? No. He's the former world champion. Again, planting the knight is best, but he goes bishop b5, hitting the loose knight, but he now allows Mahdi to play this move of bishop takes on f6, getting rid of this traffic jam of white pieces. Queen captures, the queens leave the board. Not good when KRAMNIK was attacking. White was the one with the drafty king. We get rook f2 to cover the knight, and now a very surprising move. These grandmasters love their bishops. Keeping this knight on the board was best. You know, knight d3, forks the rooks, picks up the bishop pair for black here. Well, you've already picked up the bishop pair, but you retain it in a nice way. But instead we see the move of bishop takes on e2. Rook recaptures. Why would KRAMNIK give them up? Well, now d4 is his point. There's a pin. That one's rolling down the board. It is a nice shot. However, there's an idea he's overlooked. Mahdi finds it with bishop f5. Excellent move. Getting that one out of dodge, activating it. If you take here, it's actually not a problem. Rook recaptures, supported by the knight. And if you push, again the rook just slides away. Pressures the bishop. Sure, you can carry on, but then the pawn drops and then it could become weak, and okay, the pawn's covered for now. The knight's a good blockader, so it wasn't played. KRAMNIK goes rook d to b8, centralizing. This rook sweeps across, not the right move. You actually had to play something like king h2, hold steady on the position, because it allows KRAMNIK a tactical shot, which he finds. To his credit, he's got more time on the clock, and it's pawn takes on e3. Given the brilliancy, what a move by KRAMNIK. Where does he come up with these? Is there any engine assistance going on? Who knows, right, in this day and age? That pawn's marching. We see rook takes on b6 and e2. This is the point. Not only do you hit the knight, but you're actually threatening to cleanly make a queen. So the knight has to move so that this rook can cover the square. The queen is made. Rook takes. This one takes with check. King h2, and KRAMNIK is an exchange ahead. King g7 played. How's your technique? Knight g4. He's not played the tournament for 3 months. This knight hops back to e6. KRAMNIK targeting f4. No time for g3, or the second rook slams down on d2. There's going to be a checkmate soon. So we see bishop takes on e6. Very powerful knight. Now the rook recaptures, and of course Mahdi keeps those rooks on the board. KRAMNIK activates. Rook g3 eyes the black king. It gets out of dodge. Knight h6 played, coming into the danger zone. Rook e4 targets the pawn. Check, king e7, and now after rook g7, pressuring f7, black's got a choice. You can defend it with rook f8, or you can pick up here. This is how KRAMNIK plays. He gives the doubled pawns and then the second one, which was likely to drop anyway. But he's activated his king. Now his rooks get active. He's bringing them down to the second rank. Rook b7, preparing to check. This rook hits the second, trying to kebab that king. We get check and the king just abandons the pawn. You know, if you go king e5, well, it's only temporarily staying with the pawn. Knight g4 check comes. The f6 pawn, not long for this world. So king d5 played. We see king g3 anticipating the problems on g2. Rook under fire, saved, pressures the pawn, knight g4 hits it, rook takes check, king f3, and we see why the knight hopped back. It covers these squares, also threatening a monster fork now on e3. So this rook slides away. Now we see takes with check, king c5, the rook moving across, rook d3 check, and we now get an exchange of one pair. Maybe KRAMNIK should have kept them on the board. Either way, this should be heading towards a draw, but we get bloodshed. We now see the king marching in, and it makes this huge progress. Keep your eye on KRAMNIK's king. It now marches all the way down into the promised land of the white position. Lovely activated king in the end game, just what you want to see. Brings all the way down, but then after king f2, now knight f5, rook f3, knight h6, rook f8, knight g4 check, it starts marching back. King f3 from KRAMNIK, knight e5 check. We've just reached move 70. They're scrambling, playing on seconds, and now what does KRAMNIK do here? He plays one of the most horrendous blunders you're likely to see in a while. He should go king e4 or king e3. Just don't go king f4. A massive blunder. Look at the reaction here of the Silicon Overlord. Can you find the tactical shot? Not easy, but somehow Mahdi finds it. He goes knight g6 check. Have you ever seen such a powerful move on seconds? How is he finding that? How is that coming to him? How is that humanly possible? You could give Magnus this position in a classical game. He might struggle to find that. Just incredible from this international master. How can he do this to a former world champion, taking the rook and then preparing to convert the game? Here KRAMNIK either loses on time or resigns, one or the other. He is raging. This is the last game he played. Never finished the final 3 rounds. You can just imagine the scenes at KRAMNIK HQ when this happened.
Okay, let's do the procedure. Block. This is first what I do.
Alas, we don't actually have the live stream footage. KRAMNIK didn't stream. All we've got is this game to go on here, but something's for sure. Mahdi's name was already on the KRAMNIK scrolls. It just got underlined. Maybe even double underlined. I don't know. This was the final game of KRAMNIK's tournament. He did play the later edition too. Finished a respectable 17th. Played all 11 games. There you go. He's back, folks. We've missed him. I hope you enjoyed. And if you want to see the original game between these two guys that they played, I covered it back in February. Then check out the video on screen. It's another absolute classic. Thanks very much for watching and see you soon.